Hello, everybody. We are your landlords, flooding out and tapping out so that you don't have to, with the occasional screw. My name is Graham. I go by Hamhocks42 on the internet, and as always, I'm joined by the one and only Astralsflame. Astrals, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, bud. It's been a few weeks. It's been crazy busy, I think, on both our parts, but we're finally back
Mm-hmm.
into the realtor's office with some hot new listings. I'm not going to get into the listing yet, though. So, how have you been? What's been going on?
I've been good. I've been good. So actually, since we spoke last, I actually did quit my part-time job. So this whole content creation thing is officially full-time. Whether that's
What?
whether that's a good idea or not, we shall see. For the foreseeable future, the bills will get paid. Hopefully, I can eat in there
Bonus?
too. But yeah, so no,
It's
it's all good. It was one of those things where I was having a conversation with somebody, and I just mentioned like, yeah, so I'm at this restaurant gig. It's part time. It's only 2 nights a week, and I'm only making X dollars. And he just looked at me like, you couldn't offset that in some other way. Um,
okay, okay.
hmm. Now that you mention it. So on
It's,
an unrelated note, if you wouldn't mind dropping any subs over on Twitch, I have a Patreon as well. Anyway, sorry. Anyway,
it's okay, all
but no,
good.
it's a blast. It is scary, but it's fantastic. So I'm doing way more streams, trying to get more videos out on my own channel more consistently. Also doing more stuff over on Twitter, which is delightful and exhausting all at the same time.
Yes.
But it's fun. So it's that's what's going on. That's the new update on my front. So yeah, how about you, man? How have you been? What's been going on over the last few weeks?
Well, my kind of updates have been a little less on the streaming side. I'm trying to get back into the whole streaming thing, but the last few weeks for me have been focusing on cosplay. I got back into anime conventions again, did my first cosplay in what was probably 3 years. I did the Luke from Genshin Impact with the giant fish as my sword. If you know the meme, you know the meme. It's his like second best weapon in the game. Don't ask me why, but that's yeah, it's a giant fish that he swings around. It's the second best claymore weapon. Again, I don't know how a fish is a claymore, but anyways, did that, been getting
Love
back in shape, hitting the gym, doing the workouts, and now happy to just step back into the booth, our luxury condominiums on these new listings, and get back into the MTG life to keep up that content push, the grind. And we've got
love it, dude.
a sweet grind to talk about today. I don't know if it's really grinding gears or anything, but the grind of a new set,
Oh
Lord of the
yes,
Rings.
it's here. They've done it.
They did it. That's
Yeah. Of all, like, knowing that they were doing the universes beyond, like, since The Walking Dead, it's one of those things where if you were to ask somebody before we knew, what the product roadmap
mhm.
ultimately became, if you just ask people like, what are your dream crossovers? If you ask almost any member of the MTG, well, no, that's a broad statement, but if you ask
Eh,
many people within the MTG community, Lord of the Rings was going to be their top five, if not number one.
mhm.
And the fact that they actually made it happen and gave it a complete set.
Yeah.
If you look at things like the Fortnite crossover, the Walking Dead crossover that kind of started it all, Street Fighter, they're all secret layers, where it's just like these are a handful of cards that are part of this universe. So enjoy, like, yay. But the
Hmm.
fact that with Lord of the Rings, they were like, this is Lord of the freaking Rings. We have the ability to do this. And they knew it was gonna sell, because let's be honest. I mean, of course. And so they freaking went for it. And yeah, and ultimately what we're going to be talking about today is kind of unpacking like, well, okay, did they hit the mark? Like, is it a quality set for what it is? Um yeah, and if nothing else, it is an impressive achievement
Agreed.
for just from the perspective of just the fact that it now exists, it's playable, it's in a ton of environments. Some of the showcases look fantastic in my opinion.
They're so
Like,
beautiful, honestly.
the panorama arts.
When
Oh,
everything links together, like
mm-hmm.
I'll quit. I'm gonna subject in just very briefly because I've not bought a lot of product from the set. I've bought a commander deck and a collector pack. Which is fine, but of what I got, the showcase of having like the elven writing and the feature of like the ring style where it's just the centerfold of art, or the
Mm-hmm.
extended building into a giant panorama. A plus, loved it, drew me in. Like
Mm-hmm.
making a whole picture, how the different cards all kind of fit in, relive some of the most famous battles, like the Battle of Moria against the Balrog. It just A plus. Can't
Oh yeah.
have nothing bad to say about that.
Oh, 100%. Well, and they did such a beautiful job of taking these moments. Well, it's funny. So when you were talking about your cosplay, I don't know that meme. I don't play Genshin Impact, but I saw your fish sword and it looked awesome.
Thank you.
And but that idea of like, if you know, you know. And with Lord of the Rings, they were able to take that and take these iconic moments in the story,
Mhm.
and they just need to show you a little bit of it.
That's it.
You know, and so that's it, just a little taste. And so like there's one on one of the Samwise, I believe it's Samwise the Stout-Hearted.
Mhm.
His showcase art with the ring, you know, inscription around him.
Yep.
It doesn't have any flavor text because his text box is fairly large. Like so
Yes.
didn't have room for that. But it shows this like silhouette of him clearly at the base of Mount Doom, like carrying Frodo on his back. And it's like that's one of those moments that honestly, like I might even tear up a little bit here, even thinking about it. Like Sam has a couple of lines where it's just like, "Oh, no, you got me again."
Mr. Frodo, please, Mr. Frodo.
Like Sam gets me every time.
Yep.
But that moment of I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like, oh, it's the best. And that art shows that moment. He's carrying Frodo on his back as he's climbing a volcano. I mean, it's just like that kind of, you know, loyalty. I mean, that moment is Samwise, and so
It
for that
is.
moment to be one of his arts, like, yes, like perfect. I adore that. Yeah, and it's a different moment than what's depicted in the normal art rather than the showcase art because they took those. I don't know. They did a great job of leveraging the different showcase arts to really showcase different parts of the story. So whatever it is that you're into, whatever part of it you want to engage with, there's probably a version of that card out there that can give you that.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like, I'll pose a two-part question to you.
Mhm.
Speaking into the flavor, so there's different arts, and you also said on it different cards of different characters. So as an overall, again, this is a two-part question. The first
Mhm.
part, do you feel the set actually captured the story of Middle Earth of the Lord of the Rings, and how do you feel about the different versions of each of the characters? So, for example, like Gandalf has like 3 or 4 cards that showcases his progression through the story.
Mhm.
How do you
That's a
feel?
great question. Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like in general, I like it, and I think as far as the overall tone and feel for the set, I really think they nailed it. I
Agreed.
feel like mechanically the cards represent the characters well. Um, you know, for the most part, like there may be some exceptions here and there, but
Yeah,
generally
small ones.
speaking, I feel like they hit it pretty well. Um, and I feel like the flavor, this set needed to get the flavor right. If the entire if not a single card was even remotely playable outside of like its own limited environment. If they
Mhm.
all were absolute garbage, that cost like 2 mana more than they should for every effect. Even, you know, and therefore had no value within the MTG community, which fortunately isn't the case. But even if that was the case, if the flavor was good, people would still buy it up. And still,
Oh,
people would
easily.
still engage with it, you know, guaranteed. But yeah, so I feel like in general, they did a great job. As far as having different cards depicting different characters, I don't mind that for the most part
Mhm.
because most of these characters grow and change throughout the course of the story. And so the fact that you have like Meriadoc Brandybuck, who's like the mono green little hobbit who's at home and comfortable and, you know, just likes to eat food, and then compared to, you know, Mary the Stalwart of Rohan or whatever
Yeah,
his
the
name is,
Esquire
who's like
Rohan. Yeah.
Esquire Rohan, that's what. Yeah, who's like the red white aligned hasty warrior dude. It's like, wait a minute, like that shows his progression in the story. And you mentioned Gandalf.
Mhm.
He's got a number of different variants, which I mean, he's freaking Gandalf. If any character was going to get a lot of treatments, I
It's
mean, he
true.
literally dies and gets reborn in the story, which, for the record, is still my least favorite part of that whole trilogy, which
Yeah.
I know isn't necessarily.
It had different feels. It hit different ways.
Yeah, I don't know. Undoing death is one of my big pet peeves in general, and it is funny because when we were talking when I
Ah,
was going on social media about, you know, March of the Machine,
oh,
which
yes.
there's another episode about that that we've done if you want to listen to that whole thing.
Often hear
Different
it.
story for another day. And
Mm.
all right,
Excuse me.
but undoing death, it just deflates like stories to me. And I remember reading Two Towers for the first time as like, you know, a 15, 16-year-old kid. And I got to the point where Gandalf came back, and it was like, and I remember like groaning. I was like, really? Really? Like, I thought this was going to be interesting because they had to figure out how to solve, like, how to win the day without Gandalf. And then you're just like, nah, I need him, so he's back. It's like, and I know that Tolkien did like hundreds of hours of back-end work to justify Gandalf being able to do that. And at the time, like, I was just some punk kid who was just like, oh no, the party doesn't have their wizard, because, you know, like I didn't realize that he was like a demigod. I didn't realize that he like I thought he was just a human, you know. And so anyway, but regardless of all that, Gandalf the White and Gandalf the Gray being completely separate characters and completely distinct cards, I think is smart. It makes sense. I like it. And then the fact that they also have, like, there's Gandalf, Friend of the Shire as well. And there are two Gandalf the Whites. There's a mythic and a rare. I just pulled them up on Scryfall.
There's two?
And then yeah, there are a couple. There's Gandalf the White Rider, then Gandalf the White.
Oh, the White Rider.
That's not confusing
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
Yeah, there's White Rider's the rare. And then there's also Gandalf Westward Voyager in the Commander product, if that's of interest.
Oh,
And
that
he's
is, because
Simic,
that
of all things.
details when the passage of when they're leaving to the Undying Lands with
Mhm.
the elves at the end of the third movie.
Yep.
Didn't know that was a card.
That is a card.
I learned something.
Yes.
That's really cool, actually. I like that.
Yeah, and again, he's Simic for some reason, which
Okay.
okay,
Sure.
I'm not really, but it's also weird because it's just like at that point he's still just Gandalf the White. He just got on a boat. Like, do we like? I don't know. I didn't see a big character change there, but the idea of him being happy at the end, all right, sure. Like, anyway, but all in all, I feel like they show the characters' journeys
Yes.
in
Absolutely
the cards, which I'm okay with that. I also, on the one hand, well, it's kind of funny. Because a lot of the main characters got multiple cards, but I also don't. I can't think of Lord of the Rings characters that didn't get cards.
Everyone
Because
seemed to get one.
I feel like everybody got. Farmer Maggot is like
Well,
he is one dude who they did not give a card to. He's
Yes,
in the
that's
Commander
right.
product. And that's one of those where it's like, really, like, I don't know. In the books, he straight up he tells one of the Nazgul to go piss off.
Yeah,
And he does.
I remember.
Yeah. And he's just like the coolest guys to the Hobbit. He's one of the last like hobbits that they hang out with in the Shire before they, you know, encounter Tom Bombadil and do all that happy jazz.
Yep.
Then didn't make it to the movie because it's really tedious.
Yeah.
But anyway.
A little bit.
But it's also very awkwardly written to the point where every time I see an artist's depiction of the Barrow Downs, I'm like, oh, that's what they were. I've read that book multiple times. I don't have a clear mental picture of what was going on there because the descriptions are very awkward in the books. I'm sorry. I love them. They're great books. They make me very, very happy, but they are not flawless.
Yeah.
Anyway, in any event, but I'm glad. That's actually another point that I can pivot to a little bit. If we're doing the proper landlords thing where I just refuse to shut up. I love that these cards are based on the books. I love that they don't reference the movies at all. And they're so far afield from the films that there are characters and moments that occur within the books that got cut for the movies that have cards. You know, Tom Bombadil is like the Wooburg commander guy who cares about sagas. Flavor Fleet, I love that card. Like it's so good. He's like possibly my favorite card from the entire set. I adore Tom.
Like it's such an interesting mechanic to see. Like we've seen Enchantment Cares commanders, we've seen like Shrine Cares commanders and that. But to care about sagas in a 5C range and the telling of the stories to give him indestructibility is kind of like, you know, the more belief in a story, the more power it has. I agree with you. Fantastic flavor on that card.
Yeah. Well, and I love it too because in the books, when he's explaining things, he just he goes on and on and on. Like it's almost kind of never ending. And like, and sometimes he's singing, sometimes it's more poetic, but then he's talking, but he's always telling a story. And so the idea of once you have a bunch of lore counters, Like he gets indestructible and hexproof. So like once he's on a roll, he's not stopping. And then when he finishes one story, he just goes right into the next one and pulls another saga out, and we're just running with that now too. I don't know. Like they could not have captured that character better, in my opinion.
I certainly agree.
Like it's one of those things where it's easy to be kind of an armchair game designer and think we're like, oh, what I would like the character to do this, that, or the other. And I know full well whatever version of Bombadil I made would not be anywhere near as cool as the one we got. Yeah, it's great.
Let me design a grizzly bear. I'll make a 2/2. That's about the best I'll do.
I'm right there with you, actually. It's one of the, yeah. Well, it's so easy to look at, a card and be like, well, why does it do this? Why can't it do this over here? And it's just kind of like, well, probably for a reason that you haven't thought of. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
so card design.
Yeah. Card design. Yes.
Balrogs not having wings. What is your opinion on this? I'm curious. I had my pet peeve about this. Balrogs not having wings in the Magic the Gathering cards.
I mean, that you're gonna have to take up a token though, because like the Balrog didn't have like the Balrog falls.
That's true. That's true.
It only does a handful of things throughout the course of the book, but one thing it does is fall a great distance. If it had wings, that whole thing would kind of not work. So
that's true.
Yeah. So the Balrog not having flying, like, sure, it'd be cool. And when we think of just big scary demon monsters, we often picture those gigantic bat wings, associated with them. But yeah, I'm okay with the Balrog not having wings. I think it fits. It does. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I could have swore that certain Balrogs actually had wings in the Lord of the Rings universe, like in Middle Earth as a whole. I thought for sure to myself that they had wings, and I was trying to go back and find out where I saw that or where I learned it from. Because I know that like the Balrog distinction, there are like the Balrog as a whole is just simply a term to describe that type of archdemon. But there are different ways and forms that can be. They all kind of share a similarity, but they are individually distinct. Like as we see in like Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Moria, each one is its own entity. And it was like, well, where the frick did I pick up the Balrog having wings from? And I couldn't for the life of me remember.
It's funny. I actually did a quick search, and the Balrog in Moria, I don't believe has wings.
Yeah.
But in a quick Google search, over on various Lord of the Rings wikis, I see a lot of artists depicting various Balrogs in like the first and second age with wings.
Yeah. Maybe it's an age thing then. Maybe like, the Balrogs of old.
Exactly. Previous Balrogs did have wings, but this one maybe lost them at some point, maybe in some great battle, or maybe they're different, individuals who have different forms. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe evolution theory. Darwinism.
Well, I mean, this Balrog was living underground for however many,
right? That's what I'm saying.
Maybe there's
Darwin theory here, evolution theory.
Yeah, didn't need his wings, so they just atrophied. Yeah, that's okay, all right.
That's it.
I see no issue.
Didn't think we were gonna take it that way, but there we go.
Yeah, no, but I'm not mad at it. All right, yeah. No, I don't. But of course, that kind of falls apart though because they aren't generational. It's not like that Balrog was like the great ancestor of the one, or the descendant of the one that, the ones in the second age or whatever. But anyway, it's all good. Yeah, it's the same freaking one. So anyway, yeah. No, interesting stuff. No, and the Balrog having a whole bunch of arts. Honestly, the Balrog is one that I'm a little confused by as far as the cards go. Because we only see it once. Gandalf tells us a little bit about it in the story. And that's it. It's a major climactic moment. So if the Balrog wasn't in the set, I would be frustrated. Like that would be and they know that, which is why they're here.
Absolutely.
But we had 3 of them.
Yes, because there's technically more than one. A Balrog was never one individual. The Balrog was a classification, right? So there was a story about the Balrog of Durin's Bane, that has a relation back. I'm not gonna remember everything about this. It's been a while since I read about it, but the Balrog of Durin's Bane has a reference to the Durin of Rings of Power, because when
Mhm.
they were mining for the Mithril through the ages, there was something in Durin's wake that had woken at some point.
Mhm.
Uh, how that ties in, I don't quite remember. I don't remember everything from the Lord of the Rings book. It's been some 20 years since I've read it, but
Sure.
there
No,
were
I get that.
Balrogs that were referenced in other
No,
ways.
and yeah, no, I understand that Balrog was like a whole
Yeah.
species of Maiar that were like their own thing. But the thing is, the three versions that we have the Balrog of Moria, the
Yep.
Balrog Durin's Bane, and the Balrog Flame of Udun, all of which depict the same individual.
Yeah.
That's the thing. In the third age, we have the one encounter with the Balrog in Moria.
Yes.
And
Which
that's it. And these cards are all depicting that creature. And like it's a big deal. It's an important moment. I'm not mad.
Hmm.
And like if there was like one in the main set and a commander one that was just different and clearly made for multiplayer, sure, whatever. But we got two rares in the main set. And one of them is like a pretty good, big, beefy, scary thing. And the other, frankly, is laughably bad. Like it's
Legendary dies and
terrible.
flies away.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah, it's. I
yeah,
agree.
whenever a legendary creature an opponent controls dies, you put it on the bottom of your library. Like it doesn't even go to your graveyard. Like, but if you're a reanimator player like me, the bottom of your library is the worst place for anything to be going. It's terrible. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. It is like that card reads as a joke, and that was the one that was spoiled first. Like I remember
It
looking at
was.
that and be like, if this is the only like if this is the Balrog, y'all messed up. We have a problem.
And that
And then
was.
Durin's Bane
Yeah.
got spoiled, and we're just like, oh, okay, this one, all right, this one's okay. Like I can play with this one. Yeah.
That
So
was
I don't
the
know.
Balrog Flame of Udun, right?
Yeah, Flame of Adun is the really rough one, and it's
Yeah.
a 7/7 trampler for 5, so it reads like it should be good. But in a Legends Matter set, it's like if I'm drafting and I'm in Rakdos and like pick 6 rolls around and the Balrog shows up, I might not take it. Like
I agree.
because
Wait, is that
it's so
actually
bad.
is that it is the same Balrog.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah, it's the same
Balrog of
individual.
Moira is the same Balrog as the Flame of Udun. Does that oh I guess it is the yeah, then that's Durin's Bane. So they are actually
Yeah.
legit the same Balrog, just in 3 different
Yeah.
card forms. Then what the frick?
Okay, yeah, why? I don't understand why.
Oh, wait, you know what? I bet you but so it's like a theory. That version
Okay.
of the Flame of Udun is meant to
Mhm.
be when it's standing off against Gandalf.
Okay, yeah.
That's I think how that card effect that's my theory of how that card effect came to be. I don't
Mhm.
I don't see the benefit to the card effect, but maybe that's the final form, the final tail of the Balrog, and it's like, Gandalf's gone, I'm gone too. Woo.
Yeah, maybe. Well, and it's funny too because actually, if I'm not mistaken, the Balrog did undergo a transformation in their fight,
I think
and
a
the
little bit.
movies touch on it like very slightly. You got to be looking for it.
Yeah.
Um, because when they fell, so Gandalf and the Balrog fell.
Yeah, and it was like whip in action. Yep.
Yeah, they were like, yeah. In the films, it was really cool how they turned that
Yeah.
into like a sweet action sequence
So
because
sweet.
that's like in the books, it's like you get to fly, you fools, they run away.
Yep.
And that's it. Gandalf's just gone. And then they don't follow up on it at all. And so the fact that they kind of went there was pretty neat, I thought. But then later, after Gandalf comes back, he kind of retells the story and he basically like does the blow for blow commentary on what happened. And apparently, in that, after they fell, they landed in like an underground like river or
Yeah.
lake. And like, and again, movie showed that. And that actually put out the Balrog's fire.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Because it
yeah,
extinguished.
and yeah, so it's like that changed the way it looks. But the thing is, as the reader, you never see that like on screen, and the films didn't make a particularly big deal out of it, and so it's really just a passing comment that Gandalf makes.
Yeah.
So if they made some kind of like extinguished Balrog that looks a little slimier and people would probably just be like, "The hell is this?" Like, this has nothing to do with that character. When it's like, no, it wasn't like that in the books, I promise. Like, and that might be a tougher sell to Magic fans. So they decided not to go that route, which sure makes sense, because it's an off-screen transformation right before the thing dies, as far as we're concerned. So it's kind of like whatever. I don't know, but the Balrog's an interesting case. In general, I like that they use the cards to show the characters growing. I think that's really fun. But the Balrog is just like, it's 3 different static images of the same dude. It's
Well,
like,
yeah,
why did
'cause
these need to be 3 cards?
I think it
Yeah.
could have just been one. I
Mhm.
actually thought that the 3 Balrogs that were shown were actually 3 individual ones. I do stand corrected. It is the same Balrog.
Yeah.
After
Yeah,
reading the
but
description, that the
right.
Balrog of Moira is also the Balrog
Mhm.
of Durensbane, which is the Balrog of the Flame of Udun. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't
Well,
need
and
3 cards. It needed 1.
nah, not
But
really. Well, and the Balrog of Moria is like that's the commander one.
yes.
It's bigger, it's scarier, it has this goofy cycle ability, which I'm all for.
Oh, I love
You know,
that cycle.
anytime you give me a reanimator threat that can put itself into the graveyard, let's go. And it gives you 2 treasure tokens, helps you ramp into whatever, mass reanimation spell you want to be casting to pull it back out. Like it's delicious. The card is wonderful. I'm a big fan. Big fan. But that one, I feel like that one and Durin's Bane were really the 2 that held up. And whereas Flame of Adun, I don't see why it exists. If you needed a black-red rare to fill that spot, I mean, there were other bad guys
Yeah.
in Sauron's army that could easily have slotted into that position.
An orc could have done it.
As a rare.
A goblin could have done it.
Easily. Yeah, it wouldn't have been hard. I don't think. Well, and they gave like almost I think almost every like orcish general that gets name dropped
Had a
at
card.
any point in the books all have a card.
Yes.
Like Shagrat is in here. It's like that's a name I hadn't thought of in 20 freaking years. It's like, oh
Which
no,
is
you're here
cool,
too.
though.
Wow, okay.
The flavor that in depth that they went to actually make that is super sweet.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, it's delightful. Oh, now I'm trying to remember what the general. Is it Gothmog? I think that's the want to make sure. Yeah,
The orc general?
Gothmog, Morgul
Yeah.
Lieutenant. That one got depicted, and that's actually okay. Another great moment of the books not being super clear. That character in the films, in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, there's an orc who has like pale skin and like a disfigured face.
Yeah.
That they go back to regularly. He's clearly the leader of those forces. That is Gothmog, the general of Sauron. Now, at no point in the films do they say the name.
But that's who it is.
But that is Gothmog, who is the general who is name dropped in the books as being the bad guy that's leading the army. He's like this legendary figure within Mordor. So cool. Well, in the books, they don't give a good description of him. And Tolkien scholars to this day apparently argue over whether or not he was an orc or a human.
Really?
And in the movie, because it's Tolkien was not clear on it. Yeah, he was there. His name was Gothmog. He was the leader of an orc army. But like what?
It didn't really.
But they never specified. And so in the films, they went the orc route, where they're like, all right, this is an orc army. We have all these awesome prosthetics. Let's go nuts and like make a really distinct, super cool orc that can be kind of a central point for the bad guys in this moment. Neat. It worked. It was cool. And there was the moment where he like stepped away from like a gigantic piece of rubble that smashed down. He just spat on it with the stain. It was just like, sick. Oh, this guy's not messing around. I love it. Well, the card Gothmog Morgul Lieutenant is a 3/3 for 4 human soldier. So they went the other way.
They went the human route. Okay.
They went human for magic. And I can't tell them they're wrong.
No, I mean it's true. Like creative liberty, right? Like if we're not,
totally,
because we're based on the book, not the movie.
Yep. So that's just kind of a thing where it's interesting, and it's funny. A lot of people have made a lot of fuss and let their true colors show on social media around some of the artistic liberties that have been taken with this. I don't hear anybody arguing, hey, Gothmog wasn't a human, meh, meh, meh. Anyway, just putting that out there.
No, it's true though. Like, but that's the point about the set. Like, creative liberty is allowed to be taken. We're talking about a fantasy. This is a fantasy. Let people show expression in different ways. Like the art direction that they went, because we know what we're talking about. Aragorn. The art on Aragorn, you cannot tell me that is not beautiful art. They did that character so much justice. It is elegant. It is graceful. It shows the character stages from being Strider up until the King of Gondor, newlywed. Each one fits so well. That was everything done. Like the set in general done good, but like I have nothing bad to say about the card. It's great.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is the other the other part about that, it's funny because people look at it and just think, oh, they changed, Aragorn's race. The reality is, Wizards went the extra mile.
Yes.
Because Aragorn is like of the Dunedain. There's another card called Dunedain Rangers. They are also black.
Yep.
And like they made that representation consistent.
They did.
He's not just like some dude. Also, like all of the Rohirrim are black as well. I love that too. And it's funny, like as a I've owned up to this on a number of different medium, and I'm going to do it here too. Eowyn was like one of my first crushes as a little pubescent boy. I thought she was just the absolute best. Like reading those books, I don't know. There was something about her.
She was amazing.
She's strong. She's confident. She's like, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where it was just like, man, she's the complete package. When she kills the Witch King, I got chills. Like,
yeah.
Spoiler warning. I don't know.
No man can kill, but like.
Yeah, it's like, and yeah, exactly. Like that reveal was so good. And so naturally, after the films came out, I thought Miranda Otto was dreamy. I'll admit it. I did, she still is. She's great. But because she portrayed Eowyn in the films, and I feel like she did a good job. But Eowyn in this set looks nothing like the Eowyn in my head or like Miranda Otto. But she's still freaking awesome. I love this depiction of that character. And the cool thing is they can coexist.
Yeah.
Like, this is another neat interpretation of this character who we get to have now. I love that. That's so cool.
Well, and I think that's the best part with this, right? Like, when you're not pulling the material from a movie where things get cast because they have a certain vision direction, we are getting the fantasy representation of a company. I'll say it in WotC is like in a fantasy world with Dungeons and Dragons, right? They know the embracement of a world and where to push creative liberties to whole areas to fully explore characters' potentials in multitude of different ways to flesh out that character. The way that the Lord of the Rings, from a book perspective, was given a graphical representation in the card set was masterfully done. And if anyone has any problem in such a way of any cards that were shown, you might be focusing too wrong on the wrong thing. I'm just going to say.
Agreed. Yeah, I completely agree. Yes.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. It's all beautiful.
I love it. No, I think this, honestly, like my general feelings on the set are pretty much all positive.
Yeah.
Like as a deck brewer, these are a ton of new toys and a lot of interesting things that we can experiment with and try. Like games of Commander are going to look very weird for the next few months as we're kind of testing this out, and I'm stoked about it. I think that's fantastic.
I have a small story about that actually.
Yeah, fire away.
So I was jamming Commander on Monday night on Kuro's stream, actually just after you were.
Yeah.
So I bought the Sauron precon for Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Loved the look of the precon, hadn't jammed it yet. The one collector pack that I bought at the same time of the deck got me Sauron the Dark Lord. So I had the Sauron precon, Sauron the Dark Lord. I'm looking at the deck. I'm like, there's 37 lands. Let me just toss out this mountain. I'm going to put Sauron the Dark Lord in the deck. And that's my one change to the precon. So I bring it to Kuro's stream. I'm like, hey, Kuro, I got this precon. I've only made one change. I put Sauron the Dark Lord in. So I have Saurons in the Sauron deck. So I have the Lord of the Rings and the Dark Lord. And I'm like, I'm going to play
the Lords of the Ring, yes.
That's it, the Lords of the Rings. So, like, Sauron's the commander. Because I just wanted to explore, like, how the card is. Mm-hmm. Holy crap, is that card busted. I'm sorry. 6 mana, 7/6. We're going to sacrifice a legendary artifact or sacrifice a legendary creature. Opponent casts a spell, you get an Amass Orc. Whenever you get tempted by the ring, discard your hand, draw 4 cards. I went through half my deck with a precon. After one round of Sauron being alive, and he died 3 times. I had to recast him 3 times. He was 12 mana. But like, of the 2 times of the times he lived, one round of turns, I had like a 7/7 orc army. I didn't do nothing. I played Sauron. I passed the turn. Spell. I'm sitting with a 7/7 orc. I got a 7/6 Sauron, and I'm like,
Whenever
Build
you're in a
yourself.
game of Commander and one person is just like kind of stops announcing their triggers and is just like upticking dice repeatedly, like I mean, I'm sure you announced it. I'm not saying
I
you're
did,
like
but
being
like
sneaky about it, but like it's one of like whenever you have somebody who's just like, yeah, that the thing triggers, yeah, the
Yeah.
thing triggers. the
I
thing
just I said in my
yeah,
corner, was like,
that's the triggers.
that's a counter.
Yeah.
That's a
And you
counter.
just like moving the dice.
Yeah.
Whenever you can do that in a game of Commander, like that is terrifying. You know, and
So
yeah.
disgusting. Oh my god. But yeah, it just great decks, great design. What would you
Love it.
like
Yeah.
in terms of product itself? Like, have you tried any of the precons at all?
I have not actually tried any of the precons. No. And it's funny. Actually, that same day that I was playing on, in the pod before you on Kuro's stream, I brought a deck that does have a Lord of the Rings commander,
Okay.
but it's definitely not a Lord of the Rings deck. I already owned an Azorius Birds deck, and
Okay.
Kangi Skywarden had been my commander, but Gwaihir the Windlord got printed.
Ah.
They printed a Birds Matter bird legend in the set. I wasn't not gonna play. I didn't even cast it that whole game, but I had it in the command zone. It was there. I
Well, you
promise.
had it.
I had it. It was just honestly, it was a trip down memory lane with a bunch of old bird stuff. So like in that game, I cast Battle Screech, I cast Soulcatcher's Aerie. It's that
God.
stuff that anyway, which is fun, but that's not what we're here to discuss today. But yeah, Gwaihir the Windlord. It says other birds you control have vigilance. Whenever they say whenever like birds you control is on a card, I'm watching because it's just like it's one of those creature types that it's around, it is supported kind of, but for the most part. For the most part, they'll just take a creature or some kind of creature that's already okay that had flying and just make it a bird. And so as a result, throughout the course of the game, a lot of cool birds have shown up that can make that deck work. And including a lot of eagles in the set, which is fun. So I haven't played with any of the precons yet. I've gone up against a number of Lord of the Rings commanders. Like Kuro that day was playing Aragorn.
Yes, the Aragorn
and
deck.
there was a Smeagol helpful guide in the pod as well. And
So flipped.
so it was pretty fun. Yeah, helpful guide is, by the way, amazing.
Yeah, for like a 3-drop, it does a lot. Like
it's a 4/2 3-drop, mills your opponents, ramps you, you get ring temptation triggers if things have died. It's really good. Yeah.
It's just okay, so on the topic, not having really played in precons, having seen some though. Of all the cards in the set, what are your top 2? Not gonna go top 3, not gonna go top 1, top 2 cards. Only
top
2
cards.
You only get 2.
Oof. Just but it
general,
varies depending on what
just
setup.
in general.
Man, I would. All right. Because that's the thing, man. That's part of the problem with being so invested in this game, is that I need to stall for time while I'm looking at. Is that
I pose the hard
can approach it from a
questions.
number of. I can approach it from a number of different angles.
Okay.
Like what are the cards that will have meaningful impacts in various formats? What are the cards that I enjoy playing the most? What are the cards that I think are just neat, even if they're not super playable per se? I don't know. There's a ton of stuff. A ton of angles and a ton of different ways to answer that question. But as far as just top cards, in general,
top card in your heart. What are your 2 personal favorites?
Ooh, personal favorites.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna out there. Honestly, this is so hard. You have no idea.
Oh, I know it is. That's why I posed it.
I got it. So there are a couple of different angles I can go with this, but I'm gonna provide a little bit of context.
Okay.
So this is on Arena now. So we have the Lord of the Rings cards are live online on Arena, and rather than invest a whole bunch of actual money, as previously mentioned, I don't have a ton of that right now, in buying a bunch of packs just so we can start brewing immediately in formats that frankly I don't really enjoy. It's Alchemy and Historic are the 2 constructed formats other than Historic Brawl where you can play the Lord of the Rings cards. And honestly, I don't really enjoy spending a lot of time on either of those in either of those formats generally, as far as just all right, I got 4 hours, I can sit down on the ladder, let's jam. Those aren't the ones I gravitate towards.
Yeah. It's not.
And so I didn't feel the need to invest for a set just for those. So I've been playing a lot of limited I've been playing a ton of limited actually, and there are a handful of cards that just pop off in the limited environment in ways that are just frankly absurd. And one that doesn't look like much, in fact, it looks really terrible, got me my 1-7 win trophy streak.
Okay.
There were 2 cards in that deck that carried me. So if I had to pick 2 cards, I'm going to look back on that deck and these cards with a certain joy, as kind of being emblematic of my initial first impressions with this set. And believe it or not, one of them actually is one of the birds. Landreval Horizon Witness. If you haven't heard about this card, it's because nobody else freaking cares about it, but I think it's great. It is a 3/4 for 4 and a white with flying. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. In limited, when you have a board stall situation where both players have a lot of ground troops, they don't really have, neither player has particularly good attacks.
Yeah.
You need to find some way to break that. And this bird gives you that. And Landreval itself does not need to be attacking in order for the trigger to operate. You need to be swinging 2 things. It doesn't. So if you can just drop it for 5, swing with 2 of your dudes, one of them lifts off. The other might get squished, but you're getting through with one. Still usually worth it. And the other card that I managed to pick up at like pick 3, pack 3 somehow when I was in a dedicated Selesnya deck is actually a mythic from the set, Arwen Mortal Queen.
Oh, okay.
That card is insane. And honestly, it's even from a constructed perspective, I want to do stuff with that card because it has a lot of weird play to it. And when you first read it, honestly, this one as a franchise player, like I read Magic cards all day. It's just what I do.
Absolutely.
And I had to read it 2 or 3 times to really wrap my head around just what it's doing and how good it is. So it's a 2/2 for 1 green white. Arwen enters the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it, and you could pay 1 generic, remove an indestructible counter from Arwen, and another creature gains indestructible till end of turn. And you put a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter on that creature, and a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter on Arwen. And you can do that at instant speed. So the amount of shenanigans and combat trickery that you can get up to with that card is bananas. I cannot tell you how many times I would send an attack in and they would just think, oh, this is just an indestructible 2/2, whatever. I'll just block that indestructible 2/2 with, my 3/3. And I'll block this other, I'll block this other 2/2 with another 3/3. It's like, well, I'm gonna pay 1. Both of these things buff up now. They're both 3/3s. Armen's no longer indestructible. This other thing is though for the turn, and they both have lifelink. I killed both of your dudes. I lose Armen in the process, but I gain 6 life. If you're doing crazy combat math back and forth with another aggro player, that kind of a swing can be absolutely devastating and wreck the rest of the math that they're doing for the rest of the game. She's got that kind of potential if you play her in a clever way in combat. I love that. I think that kind of design is so cool. And because creative deck building is one thing, but one of the things that makes Magic the Gathering so cool and so fun, and I'm sure I know you get this, is creative play.
Yes.
You can be creative mid-game in ways that you just can't in games that are less complex, And Arwen allows for some really goofy, weird plays based on how the game is progressing, what's coming, who is winning on the board. Because sometimes you just need an indestructible bear. Like sometimes she needs to stay indestructible and she needs to stay at 2/2 because they may have targeted removal. You may be worried about a board wipe, and she just needs to stick around. But when it comes time to punch, that ability adding 2 more power and potentially, quite a bit of life gain. I don't know. The design on that card is fantastic and it plays perfectly. So those are the 2 cards that were part of my limited experience that were like going into it. I was like, I think these are going to be good. And by like game 3, I was like, these things are amazing. This is fantastic. Let's go. Yeah.
I like that story though. I didn't even know that bird was a thing.
That bird is a thing. And in limited, it's great. Outside of limited, it's really rough because one of the things that there's a theme, you see like Pegasus and Griffins and all kinds of creatures throughout Magic that say like when they attack or when X number of things attack, a creature without flying gets flying.
Yep.
And that effect is really, really good in limited, but in constructed, it tends to suck. Because in constructed, if I want to win through flyers, why don't I just put why don't I just give all the creatures in my deck flying? Like, why don't I just pick flyers for my deck? You know, so that kind of effect in constructed is often not great. And that's ultimately what Land Revolt is. So in limited, the thing's an absolute house, but it's currently going for, according to Scryfall's, database, it's 4 cents right now. And I have a literal bird deck, and I'm not gonna put it in it, because like in Commander it just doesn't fit at all. But oh my goodness, if you see Land Revolt Horizon, if you are drafting this set on Arena or in store, wherever, you see Land Revolt Horizon Witness, and you can justify being in white, it only costs 1 white, it's splashable for a 5-drop. Easy to do, pick them up. The thing's amazing, trust me. Yeah, anyway,
So I have a suggestion for a commander deck idea for you that's rather hilarious. And it can be like
I'm listening.
Extremely budget, like $30 probably.
Love
Land
it.
Revolves
Alright.
your commander, all right?
Sweet.
You're going to play Maskwood Nexus, so everything is changeling, okay?
Yep.
And then you're going to play, I think this card is 50 cents, but it gives all birds banding. So what you do is just attack with 2 creatures. Everything's a bird. The 1 creature you get flying to, you band with everything else.
No way. What?
Yeah.
And then and my opponent just scoops because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. All birds have banding. It's a legitimate Magic card.
I totally believe you. I need to see this. There's one. I see fortified area. All walls you control gain banding at +1/+0.
Oh, it's not that.
I know that's
It
okay. It would
sorry,
do the job though.
Target bird creature gains banding until end of turn.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Soraya, the Falconeer from Homelands. Sorry, target bird gains banding.
Okay. It's funny actually. There is one legendary. There's an Azorius legend, Ayesha Tanaka, that has banding, and one day I am going to build a full-on not messing around banding commander deck just to break brains. It needs to happen. Yeah.
Personally, I don't think banning is like too bad, but again, I've been exposed to it. It's like groups as a ban can block as a ban. It has to be blocked as a ban. If it has trample, you're dead.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's as the attacker, I get to select damage, which is one of those little things that you really take for granted in combat math as the defender. So yeah. So it is like, it sounds more complicated than it is. It is a great example. I mean, we see cards like that too. Like Saruman of Many Colors is an example from the Lord of the Rings set where you read it and you're just like, what? And like what you're actually doing is relatively simple.
Yep.
But there's not a clean way to describe it in Magic rules, so the text box just looks incredibly clustered and difficult to understand. I feel like banding is just the mechanic. It's just it's not that bad when you really have to play. Like if you're really playing with it and you're used to it, you can do your math around it and you can make it work and it'll be okay. But if you're not used to it and you're trying to explain it to somebody, or somebody's trying to, you're trying to understand it for the first time, it's weird.
It is very weird for the first time.
It's very weird. So anyway, but yeah, so no, that's one of those where I know that's like an 11 on the storm scale, and that's exactly where it ought to be.
I love your 2 card choices, though. I think those are so.
But yeah, so those are my 2 card choices. Honestly, there are a million more. That like the A1 Fearless Knight's amazing. Tom Bombadil's one I'm having a ton of fun brewing around. Like, but we've talked about them. What are yours? Well, if you had to pick 2 cards, so hey, you put me on the spot. I'm putting you back on it as well.
So I had a bit of time to think about this while you're going. For me, it is Cavern Horde Dragon and Sauron the Dark Lord.
I mean, all right.
So like the Cavern Horde Dragon just makes artifacts. It's like a 9-mana Dockside Extortionist in a way, but so it costs X less, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent controls. It has flying and haste. When it deals damage to an opponent, you create that many treasures equal to the number of artifacts that they have. And Sauron the Dark Lord, just having played it the other night, it was my first mythic I opened from the set. I got it in Showcase. It's just great. But like, those are my top 2. I'm gonna honorable mention something slightly because I think you'll agree with me. The best flavor card in this entire set, by and far. So this isn't personal favorites. This is flavor. Shadowfax.
Yes.
Show us the meaning of haste. Haste in the text box. Best flavor.
That was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so Gandalf has the line, Shadowfax, show us the meaning of haste. And Shadowfax gives all of your horses haste. And in the physical printing of Shadowfax, they included reminder text for what haste does. Like, A+, well done. Yeah. Wizards, you got it. Nailed it. That joke is so good.
It is.
Yeah, no, that's just A+. Like, yeah. It's funny, and it's funny actually. I have one very slight beef with Shadowfax, and it's only from a Magic player perspective. As a Lord of the Rings fan, 100% nailed it. But it's the Lord of horses.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give horses +1/+1. It's like, hey, but it's Magic. It's a Lord. Come on. Yeah. Anyway,
I
would have liked that, but
it would be sweet. You know, other horses get +1/+1 and have haste. Would have been fantastic.
it would have worked.
A slight peeve of the set. Like, I'm not sad about the set, but one thing I honestly thought they would have done was introduce horsemanship in some capacity in this set, with how much like the Riders of Rohan operate, some of the battles operate. It's not like I'm not disappointed, but it's just like I kind of thought maybe, but
That would be interesting. I don't believe they've had a set where flying and horsemanship had to coexist.
I don't think they have. No.
Which, on the one hand, I can see how that would be a logistical nightmare. To try to, you know,
nothing
like,
blocks.
Oh, no, your eagles can block. Yeah, no, your reach can block my flyers, but not my horsemen. Like, wait, what? Yeah, I'm sure that would get very awkward very fast. Because the reason that they made horsemanship was for the Portal 3 Kingdoms expansion, because it was based off of, you know, Chinese legends, and in those Chinese legends, none of the characters or beings flew. That just wasn't a thing. But flying has been so integral to balance, you know, magic, combat, and just the flow of a game that they wanted something that functioned the same way, which is why they introduced horsemanship. Yeah. But I mean, you're right. A lot of characters are depicted on horses, and I think it would be interesting. I think it would be clunky ultimately. And the reality of playing in a set where flying and horsemanship coexisted, I think would be a little tough.
Agreed. Nothing blocks.
Kinda, yeah. Like, now my armor has horsemanship. I don't know what to tell you. It just gets in. It's like, yeah.
What's combat? I just swing and you take the damage.
I swing. Yeah, it's like all the stuff in my deck is from Rohan. So yeah, yeah. My mono red deck, it's all unblockable. Just deal with it. Like, it's just.
I think it'd be
but I don't know about that. Yeah, it would be fun, and flavorfully it'd be on point. But yeah. Oh, I mean, there are so many other ones that I'm sure. As soon as we get done, as soon as we wrap up, I'm gonna think of a dozen more cards that I wanted to bring up, because Isildur's Fateful Strike is one that I absolutely love.
One. Legendary instant.
It's a legendary instant, which honestly is a mechanic that I never ever wanted to see again. That's a type of card I never want to see, because it's super awkward, and it's not necessarily intuitive to a new player.
Yeah.
You know, so it is a legendary instant. The thing I love about it is it is depicting the moment where Isildur is slashing up with the shards of the shards of Narsil to sever Sauron's fingers, which ultimately frees the ring. Because of course, in that incredibly epic moment, Sauron had a gigantic weapon that he could have just brought down, but no, he decided to reach out with the most vulnerable part of his entire body.
Naturally.
Maybe not a great plan there, Sauron, but okay, cool. But he did it. Here we are. Well, Isildur is striking at Sauron's hand. And the way that the card works, destroy target creature. If its controller has more than 4 cards in their hand, exile cards from their hand equal to the difference. You hit your opponent's hand. I love that. It's just, it's so, like, it's subtle, but it's there. Wizards, I see you. I appreciate that.
So there's a little bit more to that too.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of fingers that Sauron got left with. Only 4.
Right? Oh, it's so good.
It was a great flavor. I love that. It was like attacking the hand and only leaving 4 fingers. I'm done. That's great.
It's great. It's great. Nailed it. Yeah. No notes. I think that's. Yeah. I'm a fan. Yeah, so little things like that, I absolutely adore. Yeah, and also the inclusion of sagas to represent the songs and the tales that are told throughout. The other thing I find just genuinely fascinating is how many bit characters are included. Like we were talking about Farmer Megan earlier getting omitted, but like Bill Fernie is here.
Yeah.
And Bill the Pony is here, who's amazing, by the way. Bill the Pony is so good. Like that card is excellent. Yeah, I sustain. It's funny too, because that character, like Bill, it's a low power creature, so the Skulk from the Ring Times U mechanic is relevant.
Sure.
But if you sacrifice the food, it hits for 4. So like it's one of the best ring pairs in the entire set. Like by bar none. If you're unlimited and you get a chance, again, if you can pick up Bill, you know, and get a ring tempt on Bill, you're gonna have a good day. It's a lot of fun. So it taught all of us that, I mean, like Frodo ultimately got the job done, but they should have just given it to Bill. Like clearly. Anyway.
I mean, technically it was Gollum, Smeagol.
I mean, I suppose. Yeah, Frodo kind of beefed it at the very end there.
Yeah. A little bit. So like praise Smeagol, savior of Middle Earth.
Doesn't sound great, but I suppose that's accurate. You're not wrong.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh man, no, it's awesome. In all in all. Oh, and the freaking Nazgul. We haven't talked about the Nazgul yet.
Yes, the Nazguls.
They're so good. They're so good. Well, they play beautifully together. Yep. There are 9 individual Nazgul in the stories. That's and they're the kings of old. So cool. But they commissioned 9 different artworks for them. That's one of the things I absolutely adore. It's a little awkward on Arena because they're treated as different printings, not just card styles, which allows you to select one of each when you're building your deck, which is kind of fun. But if you want to have 100% completion for your set, you're going to have to craft that card. Quick math, 36 times or whatever. Like it's...
Yeah, because that's a 4
bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I burnt 36 wild cards on a card that I can only have 9 of in any given deck, just so I could have a complete set of all of them. Also, what was I using those uncommon wild cards for anyway? But so it's whatever. But anyway, but yeah, all in all, I feel like this set is kind of an A+ if you like Lord of the Rings, and if you enjoy Alchemy or Historic on Arena, or if you enjoy drafting, definitely check it out. Like my experience with the drafts, I am bad at drafting, but I enjoy it because it's one of those environments where every single decision matters. From the draft all the way, like, and in each, in Constructed, there are plenty of games where you just realize like, oh, maybe I could have sequenced that better. It'll be fine because I'm going to pull off some crazy dumb combo next turn anyway, or I'm going to wipe the whole board and we're going to be fine. But in Limited, if you missequence something or if you make one mistake, it's probably going to cost you the game.
It's so bad if you
like your opponent needs to biff it as well to like get back to parity. Otherwise, you're probably going to get run over because all those little moments, all those little edges, they all count because you're not very rarely are you running with cards that are big enough to help you bridge that gap and get back. That said, there are a couple of rares and mythics in this set that are absolutely insane. There were a couple of games where I was playing against the Witch King of Angmar.
That card is disgustingly broken.
If that thing drops, you're probably done.
Yeah.
Like unless you can kill them the next turn, good luck. Like there were plenty of games where I 100% had the edge and I was gonna end it in like 2 turns. Then the Witch King showed up, it was over and I lost. It was like, oh, cool. This, yeah.
Which, in flavor, the Witch King hitting the battlefield. I mean.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too. The Witch King is a 5/3, and actually, I think there are 2 different versions of the Witch King in the main set, and then I think there's another in the Commander product. I could be mistaken.
In the Commander product, there's the Lord of the Nazguls.
Yeah.
Which makes race as you cast instants and sorceries, and cool flavor on that. If you have 9 or more race, and as you cast an instant or sorcery spell, all your race turn into 9/9s. Base until end of turn. Well, okay. Still flavor. There's the Witch King. Does the Witch King have 2 printings? I know of the one.
Yeah, there are 2 printings in the main set. There's the Witch King of Angmar, which is the 5/3 mythic that's like super busted and really tough to deal with. And then there's Witch King, Bringer of Ruin, which is like chilling with the Balrog, Flame of Adun, being like, "Why are you here?" It's because it's also a 5/3 flyer, but for 6. that says whenever it attacks, defending player sacrifices a creature with the least power among creatures they control.
Ooh.
So like, okay, you have an edict on an attack, but it's a 5/3 for 6, and it has an attack trigger with no
it doesn't
without
have
haste.
haste, does it? Oh.
Yeah, and it's not an ETB. It's just like, so it's pretty rough ultimately, unfortunately, because I don't know, I like the idea, but both Witch Kings, and talk about just the flavor being so beautifully, I don't know, this set is perfectly seasoned. The flavor is just on point. Both Witch Kings have 3 toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a piece of removal in the set. Oh, and the Witch King of Angmar can give itself indestructible.
Yes.
There is a piece of removal in the set called Smite the Deathless, which depicts the moment where Eowyn actually stabs the Witch King in the freaking face and takes him out. It deals 3 damage to target creature, and that creature loses indestructible until end of turn, and if it would die, you exile it for 1 and a red. It is a savage instant that is designed to take out the Witch King. It's the perfect piece of removal to eliminate him off the board.
That's so
it's
good.
So good. I love it.
That's so good.
Yeah. And again, just it all comes together. Yeah, it all ties together so well. And that's also just an awesome piece of removal. By the way, yeah, it's 3 damage to any creature that gets around indestructible and exiles things. Like, what more do you want? That thing's amazing. So yeah. Honestly, that's one I could see seeing constructed play as far as red removal goes. Like, I think that's just really good. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, if you have Lightning Strike,
yeah,
if you have Lightning Strike and you're not going to send it to people's faces, it's like, yeah, it's a nice Toski you got there. How about that?
God.
Yeah. Get out of here.
It kills the squirrel.
It kills the squirrel. Yep.
Although
to be fair, there's a lot. Like, Golem's Bite would kill the squirrel, which is like...
I mean, a Disfigure also kills the squirrel.
Good old Disfigure, yeah.
No. I'll tie it back in. You know, everything this set overall in so many ways, masterpiece, fantastic. Small little issues over here and there. I think people the price. I'm not going to get into the price. That's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing, yeah.
Flavor wise, set wise, artwork wise, it's beautiful. Dear listeners, down in the comments, what was your top 2 cards? How do you feel about the set? Please don't mention price. That's a talk for another day on the whole. Don't let that spoil the magic of the set.
Yeah, and actually, if you are not, so there's a high stakes gambling thing associated, especially with the collector boosters right now, because of the serialized cards in this set being just crazy valuable. If you are not wanting to play that game, I highly recommend that you wait until the people who are playing that game open all the fancy foil showcase versions of all the cards they don't care about and liquidate them. The singles are going to be inexpensive in all likelihood. So if you want the super duper fancy, Mary Esquire of Rohan in like the borderless foil whatever for one of your commander decks, it's not going to be expensive. The singles are going to be probably very cheap for this set. If you're not looking for like the tippity tops, like there are a handful of them that'll probably be, I think Aragorn, the 4-color Aragorn is still pretty pricey.
Yeah, the One Ring is still pricey too, but
the One Ring is nuts. Yeah, Orcish Bowmasters, I'm pretty sure that's going to be seeing play in like Legacy and Vintage, so that's probably going to stay pretty high. That one's not going anywhere. But for the most part, if you're a commander player or you do like casual goofy brews, like doing kitchen table stuff, this set is going to be inexpensive for you if you want to just pick up singles later.
Yeah.
It's not going to be hard. And you're going to be able to get some really good stuff. Like, these cards are sweet.
This might actually be the one time where I'll say it. Ham knows I'm always of the opinion, buy boxes. Boxes get you cards. This is actually a set where I would say buy singles.
Right? Yeah, I love buying boxes too, because when it comes down to it, it's funny. I'm not from a collector perspective, but it's just, I like playing the game, and I like being able to build with stuff that, like, honestly, when I go to build a commander deck, the first thing I do is just open up my bulk boxes and just start flipping through what I have. And sometimes that's where, like, there are a bunch of goofy, like, uncommons from sets that were 15 years old that aren't money cards, but I never would have thought about them. But I stumble across them and it's like, oh, wait a minute, that does work with this. That's the most fun moment for me. And you get that when you have bulk to filter through. Yeah. Anyway.
This reminds me of a story. So I'm gonna pose myself as a younger Hamhocks here, shifting through my bulk. Oh my god, my Black Lotus! Where was this 3 years ago?
Mhm. Yeah, no, that sounds like me. No, but of course, if I were to, if yeah, that's, I mean, it's like, oh, here's my Mox Jet. That would go great in my Raya Ivor Mites deck. Yay! That's.
Oh, goody, my
wouldn't even
time walk
think
with
like,
my new Taxes deck.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to throw shade, I promise.
No, honestly, have been times when I've looked through myself and found like older cards that are worth like, 15, $20. That like, well, it's funny actually. I took like a decade off the game, and when I came back, I found out that like I had like 24 Wayfarers baubles, because they were just like this throwaway, like they were throwaway common from Fifth Dawn, which is a set I happened to open a ton of because I didn't realize the set itself kind of sucked. Like, so I had a ton of these, but all of a sudden they were worth like $2-3 a piece. I was like, wait, what? Like, okay. If you guys insist, yeah, there were a couple bills that got paid when I've like looked through and found some of those older cards that like I had a ton of that grew in, and the big hit for me, I had a handful of like Isochron Scepters and Sensei's Divining Tops, which were uncommons back in the day.
Yes.
And so I had a handful of them, and so I got back, and like Sensei's Divining Tops, I had like 6 of them, and I found out they were worth like $50. It was like, whoa. It's like, well, I know where my, at the time mortgage payments, coming from this month. Let's. I kept one. There was one that had a little ding on the corner. I kept that one, and the rest I moved.
That's fair.
Yeah, because I mean, but yeah, and I have one. I have a Eureka Commander deck. Is like, if I ever sit down at a high power pod, that's the one I'm gonna bring, and I have it in there.
That's fair. Like,
yeah.
Top holds a special place in a lot of ways. I was unfortunate with my tops. I had one. It did not survive my bulk. It unfortunately got trounced and thrown out in a series of changing stuff around, sadly. But when I bought Double Masters 2022, I did get the extended foil. That one is never leaving me at all.
I get it,
and it is safely sleeved up in a deck where it is going to be used. But top is
that's what Magic cards are for.
That's it. They are to be played and not riffle shuffled. Next week's topic: riffle shuffling. Don't do it.
Oh, proper shuffling methods.
Yes.
I absolutely turn the hand cam on. And we can do various shuffle discussions.
I'm down. I'm totally down.
I'm not mad at that. I'm a squash shuffle guy myself.
That's fair. I do like brick space shuffle in, but I can't. Magic cards are the one thing I won't riffle shuffle. Doesn't matter even if they're pennies. I don't like riffle shuffling Magic cards.
You give me just a stack of the standard playing cards. Oh yeah, I'll crack those things. Don't care.
That's fine.
But even if they're like various, like I have a collector thing from when Fable 3 launched that they came with like a promotional playing cards. I'll crack those. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they're playing cards. That's what they're for, but not Magic cards. Absolutely not. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Anyway. We're going far afield. I suppose that means we've probably covered what we wanted to do. Were there any other discussion points around Lord of the Rings that you wanted to touch on?
I can't think of any. No, like I think we've hit it pretty well. Set, well designed, A+ in flavor. A lot of different ways.
Bottom line.
It's got something for everyone. It feels like.
Totally. Yeah, and I feel too like all the different factions within the story are represented really, really well. The orcs, they have a mass, like that just works. They're amassing this big army to take over the world of man, sure. The hobbits, you got your food. Elves, who are like these ethereal creatures, can scry. Like, I don't know. I feel like it all just clicked.
It did.
I just, top to bottom, just no notes. I adore this set.
Yeah. Maybe hopefully experience others like this. If more Universe Beyond products are introduced in this way, maybe not to be modern and Alchemy Historic exclusive, but introduced in this flavor, this stylization, this effect, I have no issue with that at all. This was everything a Universes Beyond to me would be in the right ways.
Oh, I have one note. Rise of the Witch King should be standard legal. The rest of the set, whatever, but that card, that's... Anyway, just say it.
That's fair. But there's another point for maybe next time. You know, could this have been a standard legal set?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm honestly, there's certain cards that would have kind of cracked things, but
Yeah.
not that much. Honestly, I think it would have shaken things up in a meaningful way without being too bad.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in the current standard, we're in a standard where Atali and Atraxa are both legal. I think we could have handled it.
My Itali's gonna get me a Sora the Dark Lord.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's like my Atali is gonna spin into Rosy Cotton. I think we'll be okay.
My Atraxa found the One Ring. I'm going to Mordor.
Yeah. Although Crocs and Kuneros being able to escape up Orcish Bowmasters, I don't know. I'm totally into this. I think that'd be hilarious. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway.
times tonight.
Yeah.
So Ham, where can the fine people find you, my friend?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Those are the platforms that I'm spending the majority of my time on these days. Hey, Hamhocks42 on all the various places. I'm mostly on Twitch. That's the spot where I spend the vast majority of my time on the internet. But I do have my own YouTube channel where I do individual, card deep dives, rules discussions, occasional gameplay videos. So you can see me over there as well. And yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's a lot of community focused stuff. So if you're like, man, I really wish these content creators would just listen to me. Hey, fun fact, I do. If you want to, and you can challenge me on Twitch on Fight Me Friday, which is an event that we do every single week where honestly, like viewers just line up and we do 1v1 battles in Arena all day. And it is exactly as fun as that sounds. So if you want to hop in and throw hands so you can say, hey, you know that one streamer guy? Yeah, totally whooped him. You can do that. That is a service I provide. So anyway, so that's what I'm up to. How about you, Astros? Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, y'all can find me at Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Post a little bit more cosplay content, posting much more Magic content, and trying to release a new series on YouTube. I am gonna be hopefully starting this week, introducing a guide of how you can get into best of 3 Magic and give you some general practices, how sideboarding works, and the different ways that you can sideboard between transformational and transitional. So,
Dude,
all new cool stuff coming out. It's going to be an exciting time for Magic, I think, especially, as Magic is going to continue to evolve. We've got a whole new summer of stuff coming out. And if you want to keep up to date on all that cool stuff that's coming out, be sure to drop us a follow, subscribe to keep up to date on all the newest listings coming out. Because until the next one, well, even at the next one, we're still your landlords.
Always. Yeah.
That's it. We're your landlords. No one else. Just us. But yeah.
Just us. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Until next time.
Later, everybody.